So positive direction of travel on changing places. As with all things in the public realm, money, of course, is a factor. Tony, you got some thoughts on the kind of history of public toilet funding?
Yes, so I guess nobody's ever really wanted to fund them, and it sort of goes back into sort of the 19th century, where before you have public toilets, they had things called nuisances, and they were a nuisance because they were sort of these areas where people would urinate or whatever, and all the sewage and everything would just go out into the street. So it seems a nuisance straight away. And it sort of goes back into the middle of the 19th century, the Great Exhibition, where they had the first public toilet. And that's where Spend a Penny came from. So they tried to fund it by, by people actually paying to go. And I think that was successful. But then when they tried to do it on a bigger scale a little bit later on, it didn't work and it was not profitable. So if you sort of go back, I mean, the heyday in public toilets was sort of towards the end of the 19th century. And again, this idea of spending a penny sort of continued virtually right way through to decimalisation. But it's really been authorities over time that have funded public toilets, although there is not necessarily any requirement for local authorities to provide public toilets. And I guess the more and more cutbacks have been, the more pressure has been to close toilets. And I think if you look over the last sort of 10 years, the amount of toilets is just really, really reduced because they are very expensive to keep up. So that's sort of little potted history in terms of where we are. So
treated like, waste management in kind of various different silos of local government. Rich, you feel that we need to shift the paradigm, don't you? And that we need to start thinking about public toilets as infrastructure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the things we've spoken about in the last 10 or 15 minutes sort of reiterates a lot of that argument about how key that the public washroom is. As Tony said regarding the funding, they are quite an expensive service to fund. It's not a legal requirement to have them, and it's a really easy cost saving, given they're not compelled to have them. They're quite expensive. I know. Let's cut them. But what I believe there isn't an awareness of, and what we're hopefully through this and other mediums that we can do, is to actually demonstrate how the public washroom is a key element of the infrastructure of the community within the towns and within the economy. As we spoke earlier, it is around footfall into the local high street is encouraged through having that washroom, and we believe there's a big disconnect between the understanding of the washroom and its cost and the benefit that it brings to the local community, the local town, the local environment, even from whether it be footfall into the town centres or health and well-being of people going to parks and things like that. And similar, I think I might have mentioned this before, but my two sons play football, and even before lockdown, mums are turning up first thing in the morning, or dads and things, and the toilets are closed, the changing rooms are closed, and these are public parks, public football pitches where that there's been a budget cut, so changing rooms aren't open, so public WC facilities aren't available. So I think it's a real key thing across the board, the economy, the well-being, and one of our sort of objectives as a business is to raise that and bring all the connections together, because I think they're just seen as a cost, and as we've all said, they're much more to the whole community and how everything works and how everybody moves around the country in that respect.
And you probably should add in there tourism as well. We're doing a lot of work with Scotland and Wales and whatever at the moment, and they're expecting to see a 60% or more rise in staycations and people coming and visiting. And once this border comes down and people pour into Wales or across the borders, whatever, where are they going to go to the toilet? Where are they going to stay? And if they can't spend time in the towns, they need to go to the toilet. They're going to get up and leave and take their money with them. And this is where toilets have a massive economic factor. They have a massive influence on local economies.
Yeah, I totally agree, Roman. I think one of our biggest things when we talk about infrastructure is just how they're connected to everything, and by breaking that one link in the chain can have quite a considerable impact on the local community and the economy.
And there's a massive thing as well, because we've got lorry drivers flying up and down the country, delivering essential goods, foods and stuff to pharmacies and all that sort of stuff. And these guys are 5-6 hours in the cab. And 17% of the lorry drivers are women at this point in time. You know, so where do they go to the toilets? If the toilets are all closed, you're now adding an extra dimension where you have people traveling at speed with retaining bodily fluids and whatever sort of stuff, and the potential to become dizzy or disorientated. That's a danger on the roads. So we've already been speaking to Crime Stoppers and the police and such like about, you know, the problem of not only that, but mobile phones, people looking at their phones to see where the nearest toilet is. So things like Tom's doing with the mapping is fantastic, whatever, you know, because there's a whole range of issues all in behind here, and toilets are a part of our everyday life.